2026 upon us brings another year of Star Citizen, which means more ships. And we're going to go over all the new and exciting ships that we could be seeing in 2026. Now 2025 was an insanely productive year in terms of ships, where we saw no less than 10 brand new ships released into the persistent universe along with a bunch of variants. And I don't see any signs of 2026 slowing down in terms of output. Now you can argue some of the variants could be classified as a new ship because it's radically different compared to its counterpart, like the Fortune for example. As per usual, we're only going to be talking about ships that are currently in development, have been in development but have stopped, or are planned to be worked on this year. So we're not going to be talking about the Orion, as cool as it looks. Although the list of purely concept ships is starting to slim down a lot, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there was a single concept ship introduced in 2025, so we might finally be turning a page in terms of this ship backlog. Unfortunately, they didn't do the old silhouette reveals during CitizenCon like the previous ones, which makes my job a little harder, but it is what it is. So without further ado, let's begin, starting with the Galaxy. Announced back in November 2022, it is the last in line of large RSI ships under full production, and unlike the previous RSI ships, this one doesn't have a lot of firepower, sporting only 3 dual size 5 remote turrets and 2 size 4 missile racks, each holding 4 size 2 missiles by default. So it can certainly defend itself. Its official cargo capacity will also be the smallest of the 3 ships, holding only 64 SUs of cargo, but the cargo bay will be designed in a way such that it can hold 64 SUs of cargo and an extra small ship at the same time, so unofficially it'll be able to hold a lot more than 64 SUs. Its marquee feature will be its modularity. CIG plans to release it with 3 modules: Cargo, Medical, and Refinery. The Cargo module will expand its cargo capacity by 512 SUs, bringing it to 576, on par with the Polaris. There will be a cargo lift in the center, which I'm assuming is right here, that can hold 2 32 SU containers or a vehicle up to the size of an Ursa. There will be 2 tractor cranes that can move stuff around the cargo bay that I'm assuming will be controlled from this control room. Judging by this picture, it looks like the cargo grid will be 4x4x16 on each side, but of course there's a lot of space in the middle to fit even more stuff, so the unofficial cargo capacity could be well over 1000 SUs, maybe up to 1200. However, this diagram is concept art. It may not be to scale or geometrically accurate, hence we can't rely on it per se. That being said, if you intend to use the Galaxy as a cargo hauler, then you are a fucking moron. Capital M moron. Like come on, there's way better ships for cargo hauling than the Galaxy, and they'll probably be much cheaper as well. Next is the medical module. It will have 3 separate rooms for med beds. This room will have 3 tier 3 beds, this one will have 2 tier 2 beds, and this room will have a tier 1 bed. It doesn't seem like it's going to be like the Apollo where you can choose which rooms have which beds. It looks like these are all fixed in place. Like the cargo module, there will be a lift in the center of the medbay to transport patients and cargo to and from the medbay. That Galaxy itself doesn't have its own medbay, so this would be the only medical facility in the ship if installed. Last but not least is the refinery, which I find to be the most interesting out of all the modules. This module will add 2 refinery processors into the Galaxy, which will allow 2 refining jobs at once. Now because refining on ships isn't a thing yet, it'll be hard to know how this is gonna work. According to the official website, the mineral extractor will be in the center. I'm assuming that's where you're gonna place the raw materials. Judging by this diagram, it looks like the floor could open up and take all the raw materials inside to be processed, or it could be markings for an extraction area for the extractor, or it could be a lift used as another way to get raw materials inside. Flanking both sides of the extractor would be the processors. You can have 1 refinery job per processor, or you can have 2 processors sharing the same job and complete it in half the time. Up there will be where the command console is located, so I'm assuming that's where you'll program the refinery to do what jobs with what refining methods, start and stop the process, etc. On both sides could either be the input for raw materials or output for refined materials. CIG doesn't really specify what it's for. It'll be interesting to see how they implement ship refining. Surely we won't have to leave the game on for the ship to keep refining, right? Other modules they plan to add in the future include a manufacturing and a base building module. They have not talked about the Galaxy in any of their monthly reports, so it's hard to say how far it is in production, although I'm assuming we're going to be seeing a lot of progress updates for the Galaxy this year. As for when it comes out, well, the devs announced that they plan for it to make its debut in IAE 2026, 4 years after they first announced it. It's been 3 years since the Banu merchantman was banished to the Shadow Realm, and nothing has changed since then. If some of you aren't familiar with the merchantman's situation, let me fill you in. In CitizenCon 2023, the devs mentioned that the team that worked on that ship left in 2022, so instead of picking up where they left off, they decided to just put it off until sometime in the future. Kudos to Jared Huckabee for name dropping it in the Ship Talk podcast, but according to the devs, the features for everyone's favorite alien space mall has not been implemented, nor will it be implemented anytime soon, and they would rather focus their efforts on more tangible things like new ships that take advantage of existing features, gold standarding old ships, new content for every patch, and more, instead of working on a fancy paperweight that can't do anything. Next is the Ironclad and its command module. Now these are technically two separate ships, but because they attach to each other and can be used together, we're gonna lump them in together. It was officially unveiled as a concept back in May 2024, and was shown as a silhouette in the CitizenCon 2024. Everyone thought, and I thought, that they intend to release it last year, but of course that didn't happen. Instead, it was more of, they planned to start working on it last year. The Ironclad went through a couple changes since we last talked about it. The cargo capacity got a buff, from 1,536 SUs cargo capacity to 2,204 SUs, an over 40% increase, which was achieved by moving and shuffling shit around, and hey look, more space, let's fill it with more cargo. The same goes for the variant. The Ironclad Assault went from 1,152 to 1,440, a 25% increase. In terms of the specs, it's all size 3 components. The base variant will have 4 shields, 2 power plants, and 2 coolers. It's gonna be pretty tanky, as it should be. It will have a lot of guns. 2 dual remote size 3 turrets, a manned dual size 3 turret, a manned dual size 5 turret, and it will have 4 size 5 missile racks, each holding 2 size 4 missiles by default. The Assault variant will have all of that weaponry plus 2 quad remote size 3 turrets and a manned quad size 5 turret instead of a dual one. The command module will have its own ship components, mainly size 1, its own remote size 2 turrets, and it will be able to be flown independently from the ship and is compatible with the Caterpillar. I'll be honest, I don't know of any practical use case for it. Perhaps you can use the command module to steal a Caterpillar or another Ironclad and bring the cargo to your Ironclad for you to loot? Maybe? The latest on the Ironclad comes from the October monthly report, where it states that it has made advanced progress in the gray box phase. As for when it will release, I'm pretty sure it will release this year, depending on how far they got into gray box. They could release it as soon as Invictus. Otherwise, it could release on or before IAE 2026. More likely before. But of course, that's just a hunch. They still have to get the command module thing working properly. And I'm pretty sure the base variant will come first, because the Assault variant has an additional feature in the form of a repair bay, which hasn't been implemented in the game yet, so I'm assuming the Assault variant will come later once you can repair vehicles and ships. But then again, they could release the variant without that feature, like they did with the Clipper and crafting. I don't think that's likely though, because they've explicitly stated they want features to be implemented first before releasing ships that would take advantage of said features. Another ship shown as a silhouette in 2024 was the Consolidated Outland Pioneer. Announced back in CitizenCon 2017, this big ass ship is built to build structures on planets, allowing players to colonize the stars. Now they have said that this ship will not come out the same time as base building. Might take a long while after it actually. After 7 long years since its announcement, they finally started production on it. Well, a week or 2 after CitizenCon, supposedly. The last dev update for the Pioneer came from the May 2025 monthly report, where it was still in white box. And because this ship is so big, it's gonna stay in white box for a while. In fact, it's probably still in white box right now given the lack of updates since. Other notable tidbits include within the April 2025 report, they've made some changes to improve flow and movement inside the ship, and some stuff about modular kits. I don't know if that means the Pioneer is going to be modular, or if that is reference to the structures that the Pioneer can build. As for the timetable, I don't know if base building is coming this year. They didn't show anything about it during CitizenCon Direct, so I don't think it will. Even so, the Pioneer definitely is not coming this year, nor do I think it's going to come out next year. But hey, it's in white box, and they're working on it. But there is one Consolidated Outland ship that is hopefully coming sooner than the Pioneer, called the Forge. Although CIG is not committed to that name yet, it's only a placeholder, but we have to name it something. I don't hate the name though, and I wouldn't be surprised if they stuck with it. This ship was also unveiled as a ship silhouette during CitizenCon 2024, but unlike its supersized brother, there's no concept art for it, so this is all I can show. According to the podcast, this is supposed to be a small to medium solo ship packed with a lot of features. It's supposed to have a crafting/fabricating machine larger than the one we've seen on the Clipper, and has an onboard refinery to refine materials. And apparently they added this in the last minute during concept phase. It will also have ground extractors like the Pioneer, so it can harvest materials from the ground when you land, and then you can refine it, and then use those materials for crafting your shit. Judging by the silhouette and the person for scale, if I compare it with previous ship silhouettes of released ships, This ship might be smaller than the Intrepid, height and lengthwise. Now, I didn't like the Intrepid. I publicly voiced my displeasure of it, but of course, as the old saying goes, it's not the size that counts, it's how you use it. With all those features and a cargo grid packed into a small frame, I hope it still has enough room for a bed. That'd be nice. For when it releases, who knows? CIG wants all the features to work before they release this ship, and this ship has a ton of features that aren't out yet. There's the crafting, refining, and the ground extraction. I can see the crafting and refining potentially coming this year, but the ground extraction, I don't know about that. So we might be seeing this ship this year, but I think it's more likely we'll see it next year. So they'll have plenty of time to think of a new name for it. Perhaps the Pioneer Mini, or Pioneer Light, the Mini Near. It's basically the Pioneer but in a much smaller size. The Anvil Legionnaire was announced back in 2022 during Invictus launch week, and was shown off as a silhouette during CitizenCon 2023, indicating it was going to release within the next year. Obviously that didn't happen, nor was it released last year, so what gives? Well, last time we talked about it, the Legionnaire was white box complete, but CIG paused worked on it while hacking gameplay was being worked on. They were also trying to find a way to make shipboarding more practical. Since then, the Legionnaire has not been mentioned in any of the monthly reports in 2025, so we don't even know if they resumed work on it. As for the aforementioned hacking gameplay, in November-December 2024 they worked on animations for hacking. In May 2025 they mostly did UI and quality of life work on hacking gameplay, and July 2025 supposedly made hacking easier to learn along with some bug fixes. So it seems like hacking gameplay is at a pretty advanced stage of development, and we might see it this year. Will we see the Legionnaire as well? Well, it's a small ship and they've completed white box, so gray box will take some time, but not too much time. But again, this all depends on when they deliver hacking gameplay. I wouldn't be surprised if hacking and the Legionnaire were released simultaneously. I have talked about this ship in the past, but my impression of this ship has changed over the years. Like, this ship seems too big to fit in any ship other than maybe an Idris. It's not ideal for solo players. It only has 2 size 2 distortion cannons, so it can't knock out any ships worth a damn. Now that I think about it, I don't think this ship is meant to be used solo. If anything, I think this ship can only be used if the target is already disabled from distortion damage, and then you can board it. So only really useful for crews or orgs. The Drake Kraken was first announced back in 2017 in the form of a poll, where players could vote for the next Drake ship. It came in second, behind the Vulture with 37% of the vote. Now it has been in full production for a while now, but of course it's not coming this year, just to get that out of the way, but it is actively being worked on. Like the RSI ships, the Kraken will make use of existing assets from previous ships, mostly from the Ironclad to streamline development. Going through the monthly reports, the Kraken started pre-production in June. In July they added a small medical facility to the ship, and by the second half of September, they entered into white box phase, and that's where they are right now as of the recording of this video. Now this ship is basically an aircraft carrier but in space. It has a ton of features. It has 9 turrets, 5 manned, 4 remote all around the ship, 2 multi-purpose hangars for storing ships or cargo, and they're also capable of doing repairs, 6 landing pads, 4 for the smaller ships, and the 2 upper ones for the medium-sized ones. Apparently, it has a dedicated Dragonfly bay at the rear of the ship for rapid deployment of Dragonflies and other small vehicles, a med bay which I mentioned earlier, and escape pods, which, fun fact, this would make it the first Drake ship to have escape pods. The Kraken isn't gonna have as much firepower compared to other capital ships. I mean, it'll still have a lot of firepower, but the Polaris has those massive torpedoes, and the Idris has its massive railgun. The only big gun the Kraken is gonna have is a man-sized 8 turret, which, to put in perspective, is the same size as the Medusa cannon on the Perseus. So this ship is supposed to be more of a support ship, much like a real aircraft carrier, where ships will launch off of the Kraken to engage the target, come back and land, get repaired or resupplied, and then take off again. In a way, you can say it's a mobile space station. As cool as it looks, and as much as I want to go inside and explore its mammoth interior, this ship is so obviously not suited for solo players, although you could use it as your own personal space station. As for when it comes out, well, probably next year, assuming the Ironclad comes out this year. No way it comes out before the Ironclad. Like the Pioneer, it's gonna be in white box for a long time. Perhaps another marquee ship for IAE next year. There's also a Kraken variant called the Kraken Privateer, which turns the Kraken into a commercial ship, with a market and shops for people to sell and buy their wares. Each shop has 189 STOs of secure storage for stock and has dedicated habitation units, kinda like a hotel. Of course, that ain't coming out anytime soon. However, I think the Privateer will come out before the Merchantman. You know, just a hunch. The Gatac Railen was first teased in CitizenCon 2019 as an untitled vehicle of GN origin. It wasn't until almost 2 years later when the concept was finally revealed. This ship is a pretty big cargo hauler, and much like its smaller brother Sulan, it will be a vertically aligned ship, according to Jump Point magazine, although all the concept art shows it landed horizontally, so I'm kinda confused. The Railen has a pretty expansive interior, sleeping pods, a mess hall with a kitchen, and a sleek lobby area. It has a gravlev elevator at the front of the ship for entering and exiting. It has some firepower, 2-man turrets each with 4 size 4 weapons, although it doesn't seem like the pilot has any control of the guns. It will also have 16 size 1 missiles in 2 size 4 missile racks, and 4 size 2 missiles in 2 size 3 racks. The Railen has gone through some changes since it was first unveiled. They've doubled the cargo capacity from 320 SUs to 640, and made 32 SU containers compatible with the ship on top of the unique triangular cargo pods designed specifically for this ship. Other than that, the development of the Railen entered pre-production last June. The plan is for it to enter production late last year. We might see that in the November-December monthly reports. So everything I just talked about and everything I've shown is still subject to change, even the cargo capacity. As for when it comes out, well, they did talk about it in the podcast, and they're still wrestling with the concept. They're still trying to figure out how to get standard cargo containers to fit on the Railen without compromising the original design. That was in late November. Assuming they've somehow figured that out, because they said they were going to spend a couple weeks on it, they would not have started white box right before the holidays. That'd be stupid. Earliest they could have started on it would have been like last week. So it could come out this year. Definitely not Invictus, because that's just too soon. Perhaps Alien Week, but that's a month after Invictus, and that might also be too soon. I'm thinking maybe fall, IE maybe, or December, which would suck, because that's an interesting ship I want to check out. There's also a chance it might not even come out this year, perhaps 2027. This all depends on how quickly they can solve these problems and get the ship into white box and then gray box. But there's a cargo hauler that is definitely coming out this year, in the form of the MISC Hull B. If you are familiar with the Hull series, then you'll know what this ship is all about. A medium-sized cargo hauler which recently went through some changes. They bumped up its cargo capacity from 384 to 512 SUs, and the cargo spindles will now be an X configuration instead of a cross, to allow it to land while fully loaded. So all these concept pictures you're seeing on the screen are already inaccurate. It will be able to hold 16 32 SU containers, so 4 on each spindle. It will have 4 size 2 weapons, 2 of which are on a remote turret, so not a lot of firepower, but Hull ships aren't known for that. Like the Hull C, the Hull B will have built-in tractor beams to facilitate moving cargo to and from the ship, and the living quarters will be pretty basic: beds, a bathroom, and a kitchenette. Pre-production started in August 2025, which swiftly moved into white box, and by October it was being prepared for white box review. Assuming it gets approved in November and moves into gray box, we can see this ship as soon as Invictus, perhaps sooner than that. Speaking of MISC ships, I'm just gonna put this one out there: the Expanse, first teased in CitizenCon 2021 and officially announced in spring 2022. The only reason why I put this out there is because assuming the RSI Galaxy does get released with the refinery module and refining gameplay during IAE, then there's a possibility that the Expanse might see the light of day as well, because it is a dedicated refinery ship and this ship isn't that big. Of course, the only problem is that there have been no mention of it in any of the monthly reports, which means it's not even pre-production yet, so it's more likely we'll see it in 2027, perhaps the first half of it. Then we get into the ships that are coming this year, but we have virtually no info about them. The Aurora MK2, for example, all we know about it is it's going to be a visual upgrade over the original, kind of like the Hornet Mark II for the Hornet. Then we got the Kruger Stingray, an unnamed gray market ship which I'll just name it the Shank. It'd be kind of funny if that's its actual name. They also mentioned an Aegis ship, which is interesting. The backlog for Aegis ships isn't that big. We got the Javelin, which is coming with Squadron 42, which they say they intend to release this year, but no one believes them. Maybe that's what they mean. There's also an Avenger variant called the Avenger Trainer that's also coming with Squadron 42. There's the Nautilus, which no, definitely not the Nautilus. And then there's the Vulcan, which is the most plausible of all unreleased Aegis ships. First announced back in February 2018 in an Around the Verse video, it is a medium support ship capable of refueling, repairing, and rearming other ships. It does this by using drones that can send some fuel or ammo to friendly ships or repair them with their drone's repair tools. It carries 4 drones, but only 2 of them can be active at the same time, and they're controlled by 2 manned support stations on the Vulcan. The other 2 would act as backup in case anything goes wrong. Now this would require drone gameplay, of course, which I don't know if they're working on it. It was not mentioned in any of their monthly reports, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it was discussed in CitizenCon either. So unless they plan to make the Vulcan without drones, just have it refuel, repair, and rearm by itself, I don't see it coming out this year either. It could also be a ground vehicle, which, if that's the case, would be the first Aegis ground vehicle ever. Whatever the case, I think it's most likely an unannounced ship/variant. Then they mentioned Anvil, which I believe is reference to the Legionnaire which I talked about earlier. There's also the Auxilia, which, another generalist vehicle, would be kinda neat. They also mentioned Greycat, which I believe is reference to the MFC, a ground crafting vehicle. The only non-ground Greycat vehicle that I could find is the Cygnus, a spider-like mining vehicle, but that's also for Squadron 42. No mention of Crusader ships, so no E1 Spirit this year, most likely. Then there's Origin, which I believe is reference to the G12, which they originally took it off of 2026, but they may have put it back on when they've talked about it in the November ship talk. Again, not a ship, but many people seem to like it, and apparently once that vehicle is done and released, Origin will be the first complete manufacturer in Star Citizen. Or it could be an unannounced Origin ship, which, going by the Ship Showdown Q&A last August, they've talked about how they want to do an Origin ship because they haven't done one in a while. Whether it's a new ship or a rework of an existing ship, who knows? But they say they want to add it in the 9th edition of the 2026 schedule or whatever. And then in that same video, an hour later, they talked about how the G12 got struck off of their 2026 schedule, so they don't plan on it coming this year at that time. Either way, we're probably getting Origin something this year. Speaking of Origin, gotta give an honorable mention to the 600i rework, which a lot of people in my past videos have been lamenting about. According to the Ship Showdown Q&A, they're still not working on it, and they probably won't be working on it this year. According to John Crew, he prefers to work on new, unreleased ships over heavily reworking an existing ship like the 600i. Doesn't mean he doesn't want to do it, it's a matter of finding the right time to do it, which I don't think is anytime soon. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed or found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe and ring that bell. What ship are you most excited to see in 2026? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious on what the Forge can craft with its larger crafting station, although that might not come out this year. I'm also interested in the Railen, but only for aesthetic reasons. I want to check out the interior of that ship. In the meantime, if you want to know the best place to farm the best components for your ship, then I highly recommend you watch this video right here.